Yes, lads. So we have all seen a video like this, how to be healthy, very basic, very generic by this guy called Casually Explained, and he's got like a ton of subscribers and stuff. He's got 4 million subscribers, 10 million views, so you expect this to be correct, and he's got like this cool animation style. But now that I've learned a lot about health and nutrition, real health and nutrition, I come back to these videos and often I think it's incorrect. Now, no hate to this guy, I never want to spread hate to people like this because they're doing a really good job, but they've just been misinformed. So we're going to watch through the video and see what he has to say.
Well, it's pretty common knowledge that certain foods are healthy and others aren't.
Are apples healthy? First one to get it out of the bag with. Now, I do consume a little bit of fruit, but is it actually healthy? Not really. It has vitamin C, sure. If you're eating in a ketogenic state where you're not eating any carbs, you don't need as much vitamin C. So when people say carnivores need more vitamin C because they get scurvy, no they don't. Vitamin C just acts differently. You don't need as much of it when you've got no carbs in the diet. Has it got any nutrients apart from vitamin C? Not really in any way, because it's got anti-nutrients in them. Like every single plant is going to block the absorption of those minerals and vitamins. So is it healthy? Not really, because it just spikes your blood sugar like a ton. So unless you're using it for pre-workout, it's a really good pre-workout if you're going to the gym. Health-wise, not really. When we talk about health and we use like an emoji, we always use apples. We should really use a steak. That's what I've been using from now. Well, from now on. But what I've been using for a while, I've just been putting steaks at the end of health. Like, you know, the word health, and you put like the little emoji. Because this isn't exactly healthy. Now, it's way better than the burger on the right, obviously, use your brain, but it isn't optimal health. There's a little bit of a like grey area between health and optimal health. And this is in health, but not optimal.
So much, it's pretty rare that you ever get an explanation as to why. And one thing that bothers me quite a bit is when someone says to eat something because it's good for you or it's a superfood, and almost
often, like, I know what I was about to say, but almost everything that people say are superfoods, just tend to see them on like Men's Health and all that kind of stuff, and Zoe is another one. They say it's a superfood, and it's normally just a seed or a grain or a legume or nuts or something like these, like chia seeds. They're just not good for, they're not made for humans. They're not made for humans. Humans are supposed to eat meat and animal products, full stop. That is basically all we're supposed to eat. That's what enzymes we have to break down these foods. These are not in our diet. They are simply not. They have never been, and they are not now. And now that they are like oranges, for example, used to be like very small and like they just look completely different. Look up like an original orange. They've been bioengineered to just look like this, like really appetizing and stuff. And this isn't what they look like in nature. So like in real nature. And seeds, that's bird feed. Like if you literally go to the shop and buy some bird feed, it's that. And you're eating that and saying it's a superfood that's made for humans. It's not. Simple as.
Conversely, what that really translates to is it grows in nature.
Yeah.
Ironically,
yeah, literally, I swear I've not watched this video. This is what a wild banana looks like, and this is what our bananas look like, because they've been crossbred. So basically, every single fruit and every single plant that you know of is not technically real. How insane is that? And then they say that's what you should be eating. And we didn't eat it for hundreds of thousands of millions of years. Hundreds of thousands of years and millions of years if we're talking about humans in general. That is what it actually looks like. Now, I still do eat a little bit of fruit, but I'm just saying the optimal diet is to not have any fruit at all.
Half the time it only grows in nature because we've selectively bred it over thousands of years to be that way.
Exactly.
And when half of our leading sources of nutrition advice are Pinterest recipes, a lot of what we consider common knowledge is
Yeah, bro, foods that burn belly fat. My dad sent me this thing the other day, and it showed like different drinks. It was like 3 different drinks. One said like boost your testosterone or something. Like the other one, yeah, like fat burning. Then you got a detox drink, lose belly. It's like, bro, if we had that kind of thing, if there was like one drink that burnt belly fat, everyone would drink it. Right? So just use your brain, use your common knowledge. What were we eating 100,000 years ago? Meat. Cool, eat that, done. We don't need to listen to all the modern day stuff like this that doesn't work. Just think ancestrally and you'll get it right.
Actually completely made up. As an example, one of the most common terms you'll see online with regards to healthy food is that something gets rid of toxins in your body, which really doesn't make any sense. If your body is filled with toxins and certain foods remove them, then that means we could have brought back Steve Irwin with a blueberry smoothie. In reality, almost all supplements or foods that get rid of toxins are really just laxatives or diuretics, so it makes you feel like they're somehow
Literally fiber.
flushing something away, when in reality you could have just put 3 shots of vodka in your latte like a regular person. The next thing you'll often run into are online recipes for anything made overnight in a mason jar, telling you you're not getting enough
Again, oats taste amazing, and you think they're good for you, but they're not. They're just pure sugar. They literally just get, sure, it's a complex carb and it gets released over time. We're not supposed to be eating this. We weren't eating this pre-agriculture, which was 12,000 years ago, and we've been alive for hundreds of thousands of years. And as soon as we started eating grains, any type of grains, our brain got 11% smaller. And we just don't, like, you just get bloated. I remember when I used to eat this every single day, as soon as I'd finished it, I'd feel like, oh, gee, you know, I just feel really bloated and horrible. And that's because we're not supposed to eat them. When I eat animal foods, I don't feel the bloat because our bodies can digest it properly. Overnight oats taste amazing, and it's because it's pure sugar. It's just a different form of sugar. Well, it's not. It still gets converted into glucose, but it gets converted over a longer period of time. But it'll still spike your blood sugar in a way that you don't want in comparison to animal foods that won't spike it in that way. They'll give it a little bump, but this spikes it.
antioxidants. And one of the ways you can tell if you're not getting enough antioxidants is by looking at your skin and seeing if it's starting to rust. And while they do play a role in your body, the problem with suggesting that you should consume more is that it's fundamentally like saying the more oil you have in your car, the less likely it is to break down, which is not true, because too much actually makes things worse. The good news is that if you do have too much oil in your car, you can add the excess to your overnight oats, because motor oil is also high in antioxidants. Another common idea that's recently started to shift is
When people talk about antioxidants and just anything like that, and like polyphenols, if it's not like an essential nutrient, then you don't need it. If you just eat meat, you get every single nutrient you need in the perfect quantities, and you don't need anything else, full stop. You don't get any of the, I mean, depending on how the meat is made, like for example, if the cow is eating grains, then it could be improved by eating grass, you know, like grass-fed meat. But everything, if you add things, if you start adding things like the, you know, like antioxidant foods and all these like superfoods and chia seeds, that's when you get issues. The more you add, that is not the point. We are trying to eliminate bad foods, eliminate toxins. That is how you actually remove toxins from your body, is by getting rid of everything that isn't good for you. The only thing, it's not about eating meat that's so amazing, it's about not eating anything else. Not eating any toxins, like in plants. Plants are trying to kill you. They have a ton of defense chemicals. That is the only way they can defend themselves. Every single plant you know has defense chemicals that will try and attack you. Sure, if you eat like a carrot or something, you're not going to die. Sure, but if you're going into like a forest, for example, you wouldn't just start eating the leaves and the berries and stuff. You know for a fact that you'd have to eat an animal.
Another common idea that's recently started to shift is that you should never skip breakfast, which there is absolutely no scientific basis for, except that breakfast food is my favorite. I think the funny thing is that
It is so true. But yeah, you don't eat breakfast. I don't eat until about 11 o'clock. Sometimes earlier, sometimes later, just depend. When you like get all this bad stuff out of your diet and you just eat things that are non-intoxicating, animal products, then you can just listen to your actual like food receptors. Like when I'm hungry, I am actually hungry. But for example, like you have ghrelin and leptin, which are two hormones. Ghrelin is telling you that you are hungry, and leptin tells you that you are full. When you spike your insulin, so when you eat carbs of any kind, you spike your insulin, insulin blocks leptin. So it blocks leptin being released, meaning you don't know when you're full. Leptin says, hey, I'm full, stop eating. And that is blocked by carbs, by insulin. So you don't know when you're full. That's why you can say, like, you could always eat this, right? You could always eat that. But you couldn't always eat eggs. You couldn't always eat, like, bacon. I know that's fake. But like, you couldn't always eat a steak. Correct? You couldn't always eat a steak because it's satiating. Compared to carbs like this, maybe fruit, you could just eat fruit for ages until you just like get sick of it or whatever. But you could just eat it for ages, right? Because it's so easy. Even dairy is quite dangerous because you can just like down like a whole liter of milk easy. And it's because of the carbs, even though it's like lactose and everything. But That is why it's so important to eat the correct food, otherwise you'll just fall into the trap. When I was eating a ton of fruit, I'd just be like getting mad cravings. I was always hungry. I was like, I just want to eat fruit, I want to eat fruit, I want to eat fruit. And that's because it's messing up all of your hunger signaling. But when you just eat like meat and eggs, and I mean, I drink milk as well, if you control it and you eat the correct foods, then it's way, like I have no cravings right now. I just had a massive meal, my first meal of the day. It's 12 o'clock right now, you can't really see that. It's 12 o'clock, and I ate my first meal like an hour ago. And I've been up for like 6 hours or something. I feel completely fine, I don't feel bloated. I don't have any brain fog. And I don't crave anything right now. How amazing is that? Imagine you're trying to like cut out like the junk food and sugar and stuff, but you didn't have the craving. That's what I have. It's fantastic. No, I haven't had this for ages. Like, this is the first time I've changed my meal around a little bit. So I'm drinking like some milk with my meal. I'm having ground beef with dates and bananas, which I know is a carb, but which kind of goes against my point. But now I've like tried it and I don't get any cravings afterwards. And that's like the only like sugary thing I have that's got like, I know it's got fructose in it, but that's like the only sugary thing that I have in the day apart from milk. And it keeps me satiated all throughout the day, and I don't eat until like the end of the day, until like 4 o'clock or something. And I don't want to. Like, how amazing is that? So I found that perfect balance. And if you want to cut out the fruit and just eat like steak and eggs or meat and eggs, that's fine. It depends on the person. But I know that when I eat this food, I feel great. And I don't eat first thing in the morning. I feel like you have to do something before you eat, right? Like accomplish something. That's just like a mental thing. But yeah, it's not good to eat first thing anyway.
When I used to tell people I skipped breakfast, they thought I was crazy. But now I can say, I'm doing intermittent fasting. And they're like, oh, very disciplined.
Now, one thing about fasting, sorry, I've stopped this video about 9,000 times. But one thing about fasting, what animal in human nature starves themselves? Because that's technically what fasting is. Fasting is when you're hungry and you say no. I know fasting is just not eating, but you know that when you're fasting, you're hungry and you're saying no. That, like, what animal in the animal kingdom does that? They have food and they're hungry, but they don't eat it. That's just like, it's just stupid. So, how do you fix that? You eat satiating foods when you want to until you feel full, and that's what I've been doing. I've been eating satiating foods, and I only get hungry about 10, 11 o'clock. So as soon as I start getting hungry, I go, oh, it's time to eat. Now, I know obviously with like jobs and work and stuff and school, you don't have that specific time that you can eat, which is a bit annoying. But if you do have the time, just when you get hungry, that's when you should eat. Just live like human nature. If you were hungry and like, you know, like your ancestors, they were hungry and they had some food, they'd eat that food. It just makes sense, right? But obviously when you eat the wrong foods, when you eat the carbs and stuff, it spikes your insulin, it blocks your leptin, then you don't know when you're hungry. That's why you need to get rid of all that stuff and eat the correct foods. When you eat just the correct foods and nothing else, you can listen to your hunger signaling. It's powerful.
When in reality, I just woke up at noon. Relatedly, the next thing that's often incredibly misunderstood is diet, especially with things like paleo, keto, intermittent fasting, and varying degrees of vegetarianism becoming so popular. We've all heard limitless jokes about how do you know if someone is a vegan? Because they'll tell you, ha ha ha, classic comedy. But that's not even the case anymore. I see way more people on low-carb ketogenic diets post things on the internet like, look at this fool I saw today, eating an apple like an absolute normie, as they show off their Costco haul of pork rinds and butter. The most important thing to know is that generally speaking, weight is regulated by calorie intake, so you have a...
Weight, yes, it is. Weight is determined by how many calories you consume. However, you could cut off your arm and you'd lose weight. Or if you wanted to gain weight, you could put a hat on. Weight is not a very good determination of how you are doing in your fitness goals. You should be focusing on if you're gaining strength in the gym, or like how you physically look, or your muscle mass, but obviously it's quite difficult to determine that. So when you say you want to lose weight or you want to gain weight, you want to gain muscle, you want to lose fat, correct? So we just need to get that out of the way first.
Certain amount of calories you burn in a day, and if you repeatedly intake more than that, you'll gain weight, and if you intake less than that, you'll lose weight. As a quick disclaimer, the exact amount of calories absorbed from food isn't always 100%, which is why some people claim calories in, calories out isn't true, but being more exact, calories metabolized and absorbed minus calories burned always is true.
Okay, this guy does know a lot more than most people, so respect to him. Calories don't apply to humans, though. Even though this is technically correct, if you do calories in, calories out and stuff, you can manipulate your body weight and the way you look. But obviously you could just eat donuts and stuff. So that's not going to actually make you physically healthy, and your skin isn't, I mean, your skin could even look good, right? But when you eat the correct foods, inside you'll feel healthy, and you won't feel bloated, you won't feel sluggish and slow, you won't have tons of cravings all the time. And your, your health will actually be in check instead of dying at age 54. But calories do not apply to humans because we are not a closed thermodynamic system. We are an open thermodynamic system, which basically means if we eat 100 calories worth of donuts and we eat 100 calories worth of steak, then they'll have completely different properties in how they act inside our body, right? Like if we had 100 calories worth of fiber, we wouldn't absorb any of that calories because fiber just goes straight through us. We wouldn't be able to absorb those 100 calories, even though it says that it's got 100 calories. So yes, you can manipulate your body weight with it. However, they do not apply to us directly. We process food chemically. We process the compounds within the food, not the calories. A calorie, by definition, is just the amount of energy, the amount of heat, the amount of energy needed to heat up water by 1 degree Celsius. That does not apply to us. However, if you track your calories, yes, you can manipulate your body weight.
Now, for the average person, the amount of calories burned is around 2,000 to 2,500 calories a day. Then the generally accepted rule is that there is 3,500 calories in a pound of body fat. So say you wanted to get thick because it's 2019, you would have to eat roughly 500 calories above your daily maintenance for 71 days to gain 10 pounds. Then if we look at the composition of food itself, all food is made up of 3 primary macronutrients that serve a different bodily function, and each
macronutrients
has a different caloric value. We have fat, which has 9 calories per gram, protein, which has 4 calories per gram, and carbohydrates, which have 4 calories per gram as well. And then there's a 4th bonus macronutrient, alcohol, which has 7 calories per gram. As for their physiological roles, loosely speaking, fat regulates hormones and stops your cells from imploding. Protein is for bodily function.
Yeah, when people say like 0 fat or cut out the fat and stuff, just why you need it. Even in America, I was at Camp America, and they gave us donuts for breakfast, but they gave us fat-free milk. And it's like, where's the logic behind that? You can have tons, like 150 grams of sugar for breakfast and red 40. However, we don't want you getting fat by eating fat, even though that's not how it works. This world is messed up.
Muscular regeneration. Carbohydrates are primarily for aerobic and anaerobic activity.
You will perform well, like say for example in the gym, if you use carbs, you will perform well. However, fat is our main energy source that we should be using. However, again, like, I'm just telling you the optimal things. I don't necessarily follow it exactly, which you may be thinking, oh my God, that's not true then. But that is the scientific evidence, real truth, that fat is our main energy source. That is what it has been for millions of years. If you go out into the wild and if you just eat meat, if you just survive for a few days, even without food, you would naturally just transfer to your fat stores, because that's what we're supposed to be using. We are supposed to burn fat. We're not supposed to consume carbs. It's like hundreds of thousands of years ago, if we were trying to like hunt an animal, like a deer or a boar or something, we wouldn't need like energy gels every 5 seconds. We'd just be running off our fat for days. Sometimes we wouldn't eat for days, right? And then we finally catch the boar or the deer or whatever, kill it and eat it, and we'd replenish those fat stores. And we'd go through something called gluconeogenesis, which basically means you create your own glucose. So you're only supposed to have 4 grams of sugar in your blood at any given time, and then insulin, if you eat carbs, insulin changes it, so it keeps, even though you're eating like 50 grams of sugar, it keeps it to 4 grams in your bloodstream. And that's not supposed to happen. Insulin is like, we don't want to use insulin essentially, so that's why we should be running off of our fat stores. rant over.
And then alcohol, which sadly just poisons you. The
Yeah.
good news is that because too much alcohol is toxic, if your friend is passed out in the club bathroom, you can flush out the alcohol by popping a blueberry under their tongue, just like a sensu bean. With these fundamentals in mind, if we start to take a look at all the popular and successful diets out there nowadays, all the most common diets that cover the full spectrum of plant-based to animal-based, we can see they all have pros and cons.
This will be interesting. Okay.
Veganism is sustainable and very nice to the animals, but it's
How is it sustainable? Are we talking sustainable as in for ourselves or for the planet? Because it is not sustainable for either. For us, you can't live if you talk to any vegan, the only reason they're alive is either they're on a ton of medication or they're eating eggs. And for the environment, you actually kill a ton more animals, or like insects and bugs and stuff, even shooting deer and stuff that's like running through your fields. You kill way more by like square cubic meter than if you just like raise cows, for example. And do you know how much meat a cow can give someone? Like if you were to just eat a cow, the amount of meat within a cow would supply 2 families for an entire year. Just one cow. So sustainable? No.
a bit harder to get the right macronutrients, and you constantly have to wonder if your friends don't want you for dinner because of your dietary restrictions or just your personality.
Exactly. Like, you can't lie to yourself. Like, who actually likes eating salad? I don't believe it that people actually like eating salad. Like, who the hell likes sprouts? Right. They taste bad for a reason.
Vegetarianism is sustainable and nice to the animals, but limited food choices.
Cheese and eggs is the only reason you're alive.
Paleo diets are good for weight loss, but again, limited food choice.
I mean, not the worst diet in the world, but obviously could be improved by getting rid of, the plants and everything.
Ketogenic diets, very good for weight loss because it massively regulates blood sugar, which affects cravings and appetite, but it's extremely limiting in terms of food choice. Not very good for anyone doing anaerobic sports because there are no available carbohydrates, but it's
You don't need carbohydrates. We never have, we never will. However, if you want to perform something anaerobically, having carbs will improve the performance.
It's actually not bad if you run ultra marathons. So next time you go for a 100-mile run, make sure to bring your pepperoni holster.
Nice.
Carnivorous diets, these ones are a bit weird and they're very unsustainable, but very
Why?
good for weight loss and autoimmune disorders / arthritis / certain types of depression. And while there have been some pretty miraculous anecdotes, the downside is that it has not been well studied long term.
That's what we've been eating for hundreds of thousands of years. And people say, oh, the lifespan was short of these people. No, it wasn't. It was of the people who died from like predators, from natural diseases, from those kind of things. And also the child mortality rate was very, very, very high. So that brought the life expectancy down by a ton. But you just know for a fact that if you were in like a jungle or something and you had to like survive like for real, like some real survival stuff, you would be hunting for an animal. You'd eat like the berries and seeds and stuff for a while if you thought they were like okay to eat, because most of them will kill you. But if you found like some nuts and berries that you could eat and you wouldn't die, you'd eat that for a little bit. But then you'd need an animal to eat. You just know for a fact that you need an animal to eat. And we were in the Ice Age for a very, 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 very long time, and the only thing we had access to was meat and fish. So there's your evidence.
And everyone at the restaurant will think you're a serial killer as you peel the breading off your KFC family bucket. For some reason, the community is also really involved with cryptocurrency. So if anyone was actually the nutritional Illuminati, this would be it. And then finally, the classic, if it fits your macros, which means eating whatever you want as long as it fits within a designated calorie limit and matches the amount of protein, fat, and carbohydrates you've allotted. This is common for athletes and people who want to be bodybuilders, but in the 7 years they've been going to the gym, they've only made 2 years worth of progress.
Well, yes, it's true. If it fits your macros, you can manipulate your body weight, as I said. However, it is not good for your health and you will die prematurely.
Speaking of the gym, there are also a few misconceptions when it comes to exercise, and one of the most common jokes you hear in weightlifting communities is making fun of people who say, "I'm just looking to tone." Because the only two variables to your physical appearance is the volume of muscle you have and the volume of fat you have. It's also incredibly difficult to gain muscle. So you'll often hear girls and even guys.
It is like to maintain muscle mass, like say for example your bicep, to maintain it you could do 1 set per week, like 1 okay set per week. But to gain muscle mass, you'd have to do like 10 sets per week. Training to failure, like intense like that every single time, it's insane.
Say, you know, I'm worried that if I start lifting weights, I'll get too big. And unfortunately, the thing is, no matter how much you believe you're an anime protagonist, it just isn't going to happen. Ultimately, there are two main ways of improving your physical health through exercise, which are strength training and cardiovascular training. In other words, how strong is your bod and how strong is your heart and lungs. And while even 30 minutes to an hour of walking a day is enough to make sure everything keeps working, further training at the gym.
I mean, literally just walk. That is like the ultimate cheat code to cardiovascular health, is walk. 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 steps a day. Cool. You're sorted for life. Sprinting's good as well, but you don't even really need to do mental cardio. You know, like Stairmaster and stuff, you don't really need to do that. You can just go for walks. And the beauty of it is you can, you know, get outside, get some vitamin D on your face, get some, you know, like your hair goes blonde and stuff. My hair, it doesn't look massively blonde, but it was because I was in the sun all the time at Camp America. And then you can just talk to people, you get to meet people, it's cool.
Is not only a good idea, it's a lifestyle where you can lift a heavy thing now so you can be in pain for a while and then lift a slightly heavier thing later, or ski on the elliptical until exhaustion so that once your heart eventually recovers, you'll have more love to give.
Nice. Very good video. I would rate that very highly. It's like a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 video. Very good. This was made 6 years ago as well. Wow. No, I'd recommend that. Lots of people, I mean, obviously there's a few points that are a little bit iffy, but I just had to explain them. However, compared to what most people talk about, like if you just, like I literally just typed in my diet and see what came up, and this is like one of the first things that came up. Some of the like the basic stuff that you hear is just so not true. Like I used to listen to stuff, you know, back in like 2016, 17, 18, when I was trying to like, you know, get jacked and stuff. I would listen to that and it's just complete. It's not completely fake, but you know, it's just very, very basic and it's not exactly true. But this guy actually knows what he's talking about. So respect to you, casually explained, and obviously the video is sick. And finally, the first link in the description will take you to the elite health community that I have, where we talk about the gym and health, surprisingly. And then in the classroom right now, I'm working on the elite protocol. I've made a few modules already and they are just ton of value. This one's like 2 hours long and I've got some other courses in here as well. So that is the first link in the description. I will see you over there. Good night.